Hi folks, my name is Tina Willis and I'm a personal injury attorney based in Orlando, Florida. And actually my office is in Winter Garden, but I help clients in Orlando and also can help people all over the state of Florida and even in Georgia where I'm also licensed. But today's Casual Friday, so ta-da! I am not dressed in a suit and I'm very happy about that. But I just wanted to take a few minutes to answer any questions that you might have, and since you aren't here, I'm just going to randomly guess a question you might have. One question that comes to mind because everyone wants to know is, what is my personal injury case worth? What's it worth? I mean, how much money am I going to get? That depends first of all, it depends on how much insurance coverage is available. Because as a practical matter, very often defendants either don't have enough income or assets to make it worth going after them, or for whatever reason those are protected. So most personal injury attorneys, their first and most important question, besides the extent of your injuries and who caused the accident, is how much insurance coverage is available. So they are going to want to get the defendant's policy and find out how much coverage is available. Now, there also could be other policies in play, including your own. You might have uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage. Sometimes people think that they don't, and they do. So always is a good idea to check, which I do, and then you just review the facts to determine what other types of insurance might be at play. So in general, you get, a total amount, and that's going to be an effective cap on what damages are available. And then the next question is, who caused the accident, and is that clear? And if the other person caused the accident and it's clear, then the next question is, what are your injuries, and what's the extent of your injuries? Now, oftentimes insurance companies will say, you're not injured enough, this isn't serious enough to involve an attorney. That is just a lie most of the time, and all the time. You should never, ever, ever, ever not at least call me or another personal injury attorney, but I would prefer me, to find out, if they're really giving you the real deal. I mean, sometimes the case really doesn't justify the work of an attorney, but often your injuries might not be apparent at the beginning, or you just don't know the extent of them. I'm going to give you one of a billion examples, but let's just say that you hurt your neck during the accident, and you're having pain in your neck and you're not really sure. You go to the doctor. I mean, everything else seems fine. You go to the doctor right away, which is what you should do. And they take some scans, and maybe it's clear that something happened, but the doctor, being a doctor, wants to take a conservative approach, which they should, and they just sort of wait to see if your body will heal. Well, your body might heal. We hope that it heals, but it might not heal. And in that case, you may ultimately need surgery. You could need, to a lesser extent, injections. Sometimes people need injections for the rest of their life. In those cases, they're fine, but they're going to need injections for the rest of their life, which means their neck was permanently injured. And that's a pretty significant, fairly high-value case, or it can be, depending on if other issues are resolved, like who's at fault in the accident. But so your case value is going to be determined to a large extent on the extent of your injuries, and that's combined with whether it's clear who's at fault. So if it's unclear, in Florida, the jury is allowed to sort of assign a percentage of fault to different to the different parties. So they can say, like, if you were the one injured, the plaintiff contributed to your injuries because you didn't wear a seatbelt. Okay, well, the jury can consider that, and so they can say, well, we think the plaintiff, suffered $100,000 in damages, but we think they're 20% responsible because they didn't wear their seatbelt. And so they'll reduce the value of your claim by $20,000. So it's not always, it's certainly not clear at the time of the accident usually, because you've got to figure out how your injuries are going to play out. But then beyond that, you've got to figure out, how the fault is weighed between the plaintiff and the defendant and possibly other parties. And so that's it's basically impossible for an attorney to predict unless the injuries are catastrophic. And in those cases, it's a little easier to have some idea, particularly if the insurance coverage is limited to a certain amount and it's clear that the damages or the injuries exceed the amount of the insurance coverage. Even in those cases, it's still imperative, in my view, that you get an attorney, because insurance companies won't deal with you fairly, but it can be fairly clear the amount of damages. Another thing is there's a general rule of thumb that attorneys have, which could be useful, possibly, that someone who needs pain pills and physical therapy, they have a less valuable case than someone who needs, let's say, injections, who has a less valuable case than someone who needs surgery. And, of course, if you have multiple body parts involved, then you also have a more or less valuable case. But that's kind of a general rule of thumb. But you should never rely on general rules of thumb at all. You should contact an attorney. I would be glad to talk to you. And I hope that you will give me a call. And also, I hope that you'll read around my website, because I have put a lot of thought into the types of questions that consumers have and what I would want to know if I was involved in a lawsuit. So I've got videos, and I've also written a lot of material to answer your questions. So I hope you'll spend some time educating yourself, which will help you maximize the value of your claim. I promise you. Take care.